Well, the Arizona Diamondbacks come fresh off of sweeping the Braves and get swept themselves in Cincinnati. We have more on the highs and lows of this Diamondbacks season, and also the role that weather played in this loss on the coming up right now in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere. I am going to fight Max Simpson. Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the PHNX Diamondbacks podcast right here on PHNX. We don't normally play that music on Monday, Damon, but this was necessary. This was a must after watching the Diamondbacks get swept by the Reds in Cincinnati this weekend. Of course, this show is brought to you by our friends at Bet365. And of course, Game Time. Make sure to use that code of PHNX365 over at Game Time. You'll get yourself some bonus bet. Over at PHNX or at Bet365. Get yourself some bonus bets over at Bet365. Over at Game Time, use our code of PHNX. You'll get $20 off your first order. Welcome in to you guys. Ski to you, Zabe. Great to see you guys here in the chat. RA says, I don't want to hear any excuses about the weather. Yes, MLB effed up by not ending Friday's game after the 5th, but it's not MLB's fault that Snakes came out and scored 3 runs for the rest of the series. You're right about that, but you're wrong about blaming the weather. I'm totally going to blame the weather at one point. I'm going to throw shade at the weather is what I'm going to do. But welcome in. Of course, my name is Derek Monte, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. We got our guy, Damon Dog, a.k.a. Damon Farrell on the ones and twos. And Damon, this one kind of sucks, right? After sweeping the Braves, I think, and having a glimmer of hope this season that the Diamondbacks could potentially turn things around, it was more of a realization that that Braves team right now is really struggling and they are playing bad baseball. But the Diamondbacks, they're also not playing very good baseball. They get swept here in Cincinnati. Weather delays seem to play a big part in this one, at least as far as the Diamondbacks getting cold and not being able to score much offense. I mean, let's face it. This team has a retractable roof. We don't know what it's like to have weather delays, and the Diamondbacks don't actually deal with this very often. So this one kind of is on the weather, but it's also on, as Damon will tell you, timely decisions on when to postpone games and such, and how much weather the Diamondbacks had to put up with versus when the Reds went out there. But they do drop to 31 and 34, and we may never see our new Mount 500 graphic that we created. We updated it for this season, but who knows if we'll see little Geraldo Perdomo go up that mountain at all, right, with the way this team is playing. Of course, all of this badness, it was just a heap of bad news, right? We did our emergency breaking podcast on Friday, less than an hour after we wrapped our normal regularly scheduled podcast, because the news came out that Corbin Burns will miss the remainder of the season and a good chunk of 2026 after having to go undergo Tommy John surgery. And I mean, quite frankly, the epic downfall of the Diamondbacks starting pitching staff should be studied for generations. Where we're at now versus where the Diamondbacks were at the beginning of the season is something that I think scientists and, maybe the FBI or some sort of, I don't know, the FBI seems like it's a useless institution now, but somebody needs to investigate what has happened here with this team because this sucks, of course.
Can you call it a downfall if you were never up?
I think you could say it's a downfall based on the expectations, but yeah,
Sure.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. That's for sure. So
this team is never up when it comes to pitching.
Yeah, this team is, you're not wrong about that. Carlos, I think earlier there in the chat, wanted us to declare the season to be dead, Damon.
We lost Carlos this early.
Carlos says, can we finally declare the season dead?
He's not like an overtly negative guy either.
No,
he's just realistic.
Oh, yeah. Carlos is realistic. Yeah. It's kind of like when BCSC starts talking ball, when Carlos starts jumping to conclusions like declaring the season dead, the season might be dead. Maybe not, but as it stands on June 9th, 2025, I will say the Diamondbacks don't have much time left, right? The thing that's looming isn't necessarily the end of the season on September 30th. The thing that's looming is the trade deadline at the end of July. And of course, that's the time frame that the Diamondbacks have to prove to the front office that this team isn't going to finish 2 games below 500 and well out of any kind of race for the wild card. Now, there's a lot of inconsistency in Major League Baseball this season, right? And I will say that the Diamondbacks aren't that far out of it right now at this point for them to consider, wrapping things up, right? But they also aren't that, like, it's almost like this series against the Reds is such a great example for how quickly right now things could go bad for this team. That's the thing that right now it feels like, as great as it was to sweep the Braves, it wasn't necessarily a feeling that like, oh, everything is perfect. A lot of things had to go the Diamondbacks' way in order for them to complete that sweep. And once again, that was more of an indictment of how bad the Braves are right now, how bad the Braves bullpen is. And honestly, again, the Diamondbacks do have the ability to score runs late. They've had that all season long, but that was absurd for them to, basically set a franchise record for the first time that they've ever had a comeback of 6 runs or more in the 9th inning there in that game. This was more of like just a lack of, I don't know, maybe a lack of energy. I feel like the weather delays did play a big part. Not necessarily, we're going to get into the conspiracy theories. I'm going to throw shade at weather here in a little bit, but you can't help but feel like the weather did play a huge part just in the Diamondbacks being cold, going out there and having things kind of fall apart, even though they had an early lead in 2 of these games, and it looked like they had a chance to win all of them except the outing where Ryan Nelson went out there and only pitched 3. He only gave him 3 innings and allowed 7 earned runs. His outing was a disaster. It's what I described could go wrong when Ryan Nelson doesn't have great command of his fastball. There's really not much else there for Ryan Nelson to lean on. And also, when the word is out that you are a fastball pitcher and that's what you're going to throw 61% of the times in an outing, a team like this can jump on you like the Reds did. Game 1, Ketel Marte and Geraldo Perdomo went back-to-back on home runs, so there was a good thing. Ketel Marte hit his 12th home run in Game 1 there. Perdomo hit a 2-run home run. That was his career-high 7th home run. We sit at June 9th, and Perdomo has already reached his career high in home runs there, Damon. I know you love to see that.
I do, and I want to gloat about it so bad, but I'm in such a low place mentally, Derek, that I can't even do that right now.
You're not the only one. I'm sure a lot of people here in the chat, like, it's great to see you guys, but I'm sure a lot of people would echo how you feel. Like, it's hard to be excited about anything for this team or look back about the fact that, Erod, there's a positive from this, whole thing. Eduardo Rodriguez went out there and actually was pretty damn good. He got a no decision in his first start off the injured list. He allowed 2 earned runs in 5 innings. And again, one more inning, 6 innings. If you could get that and allow those 2 earned runs, we'll take that every single time out there. Rodriguez is a guy that can give you this. And again, I think that is one encouraging part of this series right now. You can chalk this up to the fact that this Diamondbacks team did just have one of the weirdest, postponements, resuming the game, going into extra innings on top of that, having a game get postponed on Friday night due to weather in the 7th inning and then resuming it the next day, essentially requiring you to play a doubleheader against the Reds there that you weren't expecting to play. There was a lot going on that impacted, I think, the result of this series. So again, if you want to be cautiously optimistic, you could say that this one you just kind of got to toss away and chalk it up to how, I guess, demanding it was. And honestly, the Diamondbacks came off a fairly emotional series there against the Atlanta Braves. I'm sure a lot of celebrating was done after, game 3 of that series. So there's a good chance these guys were kind of spent the weather delays, the postponements, the, resuming it the next day and playing a doubleheader. I'm sure all of that had an impact. And I'm just sitting here making excuse after excuse for why they got thumped 13-1 in game 2 of that series. But again, there were some good things. Game 1, Tim Towle went 3 for 4 with a double. That was his second career 3-hit game. He's also the first Diamondbacks rookie and the 5th Diamondback all-time to play 6 defensive positions in a season. Towle ended up being that guy that we thought that Garrett Hampson was going to be for this team, and he's been doing it much better than Hampson ever did at any point as far as what he has contributed on both sides of the ball. So shout out to Tim Towle for being really, really good here when the Diamondbacks need him. Game 2, meanwhile, Gino hit another home run. In fact, he hit 2 home runs in this series. He hit a home run in the second inning of game 2, then went on to hit a third one to increase his total to 18 home runs this season. And I'm sure that's going to make a lot of you happy. Damon, do we have to update the stupid tracker thing? I mean, where are we at here? Oh God. Look at how ridiculous I'm going to look with that teal beard. Kevin,
are we going to do sideburns up like that too?
Yeah.
I would love it.
Where do I stop? Where does my hair start and my beard stop? I have to go up to the hat line. I can't have
it's the hat.
End the hat line. Yeah, right there. Oh God. Kevin openly questioned why I decided to change it from 50 to 40. I don't really have an answer for you. Piece of Yoshi needs to get extra dark and say, what if Gino gets traded? The bet is null and void at that point. The bet is, how many home runs this season will Gino Suarez hit as a member of the Diamondbacks? So let's keep that in mind. I signed that contract. But Ryan Nelson, again, like I said, he was a disaster in this one. Just didn't even give the Diamondbacks a chance. And this, unfortunately, is what you're going to get out of Ryan Nelson. I feel like one every 5 or 6 starts. You're going to have a start where his command for his fastball isn't there. Can't set up anything else. Unfortunately, can't really rely on anything else. We see other guys have a bad feel for a pitch, even a pitch that's a very good pitch for them. Gallen might not feel the knuckle curve. You'll see him throw it twice in an outing. You'll see Brandon Pfaadt go away from the sweeper quite often, especially lately. It feels like he hasn't had a good feel for that pitch as well. So again, Ryan Nelson cannot be effective. He does not have another pitch or another series of pitches he can turn to if his fastball isn't being effective. I think that's what we saw the other day. Ketel Marte, meanwhile, went 1 for 3. He extended his on-base streak in game 2 to 20 games, and he didn't have a hit in game 3, but he did walk twice. So he extended that season-high on-base streak now to 21 games this season. Christian Montes de Orca looked amazing. He made his major league debut finally. We've seen that guy, I feel like, in the clubhouse for over a month. He debuted in the 5th inning. He went 2 2/3 innings scoreless and hitless with 2 strikeouts. His first strikeout was against Will Benson. So Diamondbacks, again, there's some things to be excited about a little bit here. There's some positives to take away, including how Montes de Orca pitched and including, Erod kind of being I guess, what the Diamondbacks expected to get out of Erod when he was originally added to this team. Now what we'll need to see out of Eduardo Rodriguez is consistency. Can Erod go out there and be what he was against the Reds in every outing? It's asking a lot, but of course, that's definitely a big part of it. Carlos is trying to get me to have to commit now to other things here. He said I never said it was as a member of the Diamondbacks. Well, guess what? Things change. You only said if Gino hits 40 home runs. The tracker literally dies if Gino gets traded. That's the way it works. I'll delete it myself and I'll make sure that no copies of that PNG file exist after that point. But let's take a look at the numbers from this series, even though I really don't want to, and I'm sure you don't either, presented by our friends at Desert Financial. Of course, Diamondbacks here lose this one. All 3 games, they get outscored 21-6. It doesn't even seem right. Reds hit 7 home runs in this series. A lot of them were by Encarnacion Strand. He hit a home run in every game of this series. That man was a menace, an absolute red menace towards the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks had 4 home runs, a couple of those courtesy of Ketel Marte, Gino, and Geraldo Perdomo. This was the big stat there. The Diamondbacks runners in scoring position, 1 for 11 in this series. Not great.
I was so horrified I didn't even want to do the math on the average there.
No, I get it. And then you just kind of gave up on the Reds one too, and I would have too. I wouldn't have done it either one of them. I would refuse. 1 for 11. They had 1 hit in game 3 with runners in scoring position. Meanwhile, 0 for 5, 0 for 3 in games 1 and games 2. Reds were 1 for 12, 6 for 11, and 0 for 2 in the finale. The most impressive stats here are what the Reds were able to do to the Diamondbacks pitching-wise. Starting pitching ERA, 3.18 by the Reds. The bullpen, meanwhile, did not allow a run in this one. This is terrible. Diamondbacks starting pitching ERA. Yeah, get it off my screen. 7.98 starting pitching ERA for the Diamondbacks, 5.90 for the bullpen. And again, a lot of that, the bullpen ERA is squarely on Kendall Graveman's earned runs that he allowed. Outside of that, the Diamondbacks bullpen was not bad. Same thing a little bit there. Zach Gallen had another one of those outings where we're like, oh, Gallen's back. This is good. He's been good. And then all of a sudden things turn sideways on him and he ends up with 4 earned runs allowed at the end of an outing and comes just a 1 out short of making it 7 full innings. So I don't really know if maybe we're asking too much of Zach Gallen. I don't know if Zach Gallen's being left out there too long. I understand with the bullpen struggles, how they want to get the most that they can out of starting pitching. And lately they've been able to, right? But unfortunately, Ryan Nelson did not help with his 3 inning outing. And of course, the Diamondbacks here end up losing all 3 games. Let's take a look here at the NL West updates, because at least the Dodgers have lost a few games. And even though the Diamondbacks are not any closer to the top, it does feel like even at 7.5 games currently, that it should be 17.5 games with the way the Diamondbacks have been playing as of late, Damon. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like kind of a small number based off of the run of play recently. The Giants can't stop winning. That's one thing that's a concern.
But at least the Giants and the Padres beat up on each other, and now the Dodgers and the Padres face each other, and hopefully we'll get a little mom and dad fight going on. Like you said earlier, we're more on mom's side there. We're staunchly in the brown and yellow side there. But hey, beat up on each other. Like, I want the Padres to win the series, but not sweep it. Just that way, again, things stay close. We need everything to stay close.
It's hard to make playoffs when there's 3 good teams in your division.
Just in your division alone, not to mention the fact that you have the Cardinals that are playing some outstanding baseball in a division where they're trying to keep up with the Cubs, who are also playing outstanding baseball. I mean, you do have, like, the Diamondbacks are in the same boat right now as, like, the Braves, right? As preseason picks to be a wild card team who are slowly drifting off into the sunset and not becoming a part of that conversation anymore. So Diamondbacks do not have a lot of time. And of course, as you saw there in the drunken orgy of violence that we call the NL West, things aren't any easier for them. But at least, again, I think it's the first time the Padres and the Diamondbacks or Padres and the Dodgers are taking on each other. So that was great. But what wasn't great was the way that this Diamondbacks game here in Cincinnati was kind of impacted by the weather. Like, I know that happens. I know things like this happen, Damon, but are you kidding me with the way that this game wasn't called at certain times, the way that Diamondbacks pitchers had to go out there and pitch in a downpour, and meanwhile the Reds just get the game called right before? And was I wrong about that? Am I being a homer here on this, or were some of those umpire calls a little bit in favor of the Reds maintaining this lead?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly felt that way. As a Diamondbacks fan, I'm sure that there's nothing, really nefarious that went down going on in it, Derek. But at the same time, it sucks when it coincidentally happens and it hurts your team both times, and you're on the road. It's just going to raise some eyebrows any day of the week.
And I'm going to raise some eyebrows right now and I'm glad Elizabeth was in favor of this. It's time, Damon, for us to throw some shade, and I'm going to throw shade at the weather itself.
I'm going to need you to stall for a half second, sir.
Well, here's what I will say. Maybe not the weather itself. Maybe I'm not throwing shade at the weather. Maybe really what I'm throwing shade at is this officiating crew. And that's something that, as you know, I don't necessarily shy away from doing on this show. This wasn't the first time. Again, this would be the first time I've yelled at the umpires for doing something annoying. That's not the right one. But it's just an egregious situation here. What do you got, Damon?
We are. I think we're ready to throw some shade.
Let's throw some shade. Let's do it. What are we doing here? What are we doing with lightning happening in the sky while the Diamondbacks players are out there? What are we doing, Damon? Are we really just waiting for an advantageous comeback by the Reds like you did for you to call the game? Is that not suspicious? Is not anybody else suspicious? No one finds this suspicious that we literally left them out there until the Reds could call the game or tie the game so that you couldn't call it in the Diamondbacks' favor, so that you could merely postpone it and resume the next day. And like that wasn't going to be an advantage for the Reds, who get to go home and sleep in their comfy beds next to their spouse. Meanwhile, the Diamondbacks have to go to a terrible hotel and then come play a doubleheader in Cincinnati the next day. No wonder they lost 13-1. I'm surprised they didn't lose 20-1 or 20-0. You had it go the Reds' way, and it was egregious. And again, the weather was so bad that they couldn't stop talking about it on the broadcast, yet you let them play on until the Reds managed to get back into the game. I think that's the only part about this. Like, weather happens, this happens. Like, again, we do have a retractable roof. So again, we kind of have figured out ways to not have weather impact our sporting events, but you do you. You don't need a retractable roof. What you need is umpires to call this game when it should have been called, and not waiting for the Reds to get back in it before instantly calling the game. Wait, is Encarnacion Strand going to hit a home run? Let's wait for him to see if we do that before he does. There it is. All right, let's call this game. Oh, man, I will say, and yeah, Piece of Yoshi wants to bring up they also hurt Mena and Moreno. That's another thing I could scream about. This is all bad, and I hate everything that happened, but most importantly, I hate how unfair this whole situation seemed for this Diamondbacks team. But again, baseball can be whatever sometimes, right? We end it whenever the umpire says it is. It was gross, and I hate it. And Sean says the umpire crew needs to be suspended, and I can't disagree with that. And now I'm hoarse. I had a very long weekend, so I probably didn't have enough energy for me to bring that kind of fire. But I'm mad, so there it is. But of course, we're going to talk more about the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we're going to preview this series with Shane's Seattle Mariners on the other side of this break. So don't you guys go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Well, I throw shade in honor of great shade companies, and of course Shady Rays is one of the best. They give me these wonderful sunglasses so that I can sit here and scream and yell with these studio lights, but they also protect me from the hot sun outside, which summer is here. And again, I know it might be drastic for me to say this, but the sun is trying to kill you. It's trying to kill you. And of course you can protect yourself from the sun with an amazing pair of sunglasses from our friends at Shady Rays. They have some amazing frames that are durable. They have crystal clear optics with their lenses. They have those polarized lenses as well as those color rush lenses that I've been telling you guys so much about that make just everything look amazing. It makes life look brighter and more colorful. And why wouldn't you want that in life? Also, they have you covered with their lost and broken replacement plan, where even if you lose or break your Shady Rays on day one, they got your back. No questions asked. They will also allow you to return or exchange your Shady Rays for absolutely free within 30 days. Again, no questions asked. And sometimes, again, you can buy stuff online and it comes in and it isn't what you expected it to be. So, of course, Shady Rays wants to make sure that you love your Shady Rays as much as they do. Of course, right now, we've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And even though I'm hot right now, at least Wendy's has me covered with their new Frosty shop. And I have always loved Wendy's Frosties, but I won't lie. I've always waited for this day, and now this day is here, where not only do we get Frosties, but we get amazing Frosty combinations. If you love Wendy's classic Frosty flavors, we have big news for you right now. There are all new Frosty Swirl and Frosty Fusion, and you can get these in chocolate or vanilla. What are they? The Frosty Swirl has some amazing combinations just swirled in, little syrup, little action to make your Frosty even better. And then the Frosty Fusions have some amazing blended and mixed combinations, including their Oreo brownie, caramel crunch, and Pop-Tart strawberry. Not to mention that, yes, you can still get vanilla, but try them all to find your favorite. Anyway, whatever flavor you're craving, odds are we got a Frosty for it. So clock in for a sweet treat anytime, including midnight or later, which is when I tend to want a sweet treat. So check out Frosty's all new flavors. A refresh on a classic, gotta be Wendy's. At participating U.S. Wendy's, hours may vary by location. All right, Damon. Well, the Mariners are here in town, and I'm sure that there's at least 2 Mariners fans in this office, which disgust me. There were too many, though, so we sent one back to Seattle. All right.
Yeah,
it was like Zach needed to go because we couldn't have Zach and Shane both rooting for the Mariners in this office during this series.
No, yeah, you love Seattle so much. Why don't you go marry it?
Yeah, why don't you just go live there? And he was like, fine. And he did. And we miss you, Zach. We already miss you. But let's take a look at his Mariners at a glance. Diamondbacks take them on starting tonight at 6:40 p.m. at Chase Field. Mariners are 33-31 this season with a 0-run differential currently. Diamondbacks are catching them at a good time. Not only did Kirby pitch yesterday, but the Mariners are 3-7 in their last 10. They have a 7.13 OPS this season, which is good for 13th in Major League Baseball. They have a 4.02 starting pitching ERA, which a little below expectations there for that pitching staff. That starting pitching staff was expected to be pretty damn good. They are 19th in Major League Baseball in starting pitching ERA. They are 3.74 relief pitching ERA, which is good for 13th. And I'm fairly certain that I messed that up. It is minus 10.
Okay, because I almost asked you about this.
Not minus 100.
I almost asked you about this, and I was like, how are they so bad at defense, man? And how are they a decent baseball team?
It's minus 10 outs above average.
I should have clarified with you.
That's on me. That's on me for sure. It'd be hilarious if they were minus 100.
They're just the worst
average.
defensive baseball team that's ever existed.
History.
Except there's somehow 6 teams that are worse than them.
But they are still 25th in Major League Baseball, which explains some of their struggles because there are a lot of things about the Mariners that they're a very good team. But again, the starting pitching, Emerson Hancock and Bryce Miller have both been a bit disappointing. And again, Diamondbacks get both of those guys in this series, so not the worst time to be catching them, not only at 3-7 in their last 10, but without their best starting pitchers going out there. Let's take a look at the probable pitchers for this series. Again, in game 1 there, the Diamondbacks have Merrill Kelly going up against Emerson Hancock. Merrill Kelly this year is 6-2 with a 3.43 ERA, 72 strikeouts. Hancock 2-2 with a 5.19 ERA, 38 strikeouts. Game 2, the Diamondbacks have Brandon Pfaadt going up against Brian Wu. Again, Brandon Pfaadt, his ERA is ballooned now to 5.51 this season. He still is 7-4 with 51 strikeouts. Wu, meanwhile, is 5-3 with a 3.07 ERA, 69 strikeouts for him. That's to me, that's the big question mark there. Like, obviously, we're still going to wait to see what Eduardo Rodriguez has to offer in the finale going up against Bryce Miller. Rodriguez still has a 6.70 ERA this season. Bryce Miller, 5.73. But I mean, I think the true question here is, what are the Diamondbacks going to get out of Brandon Pfaadt? Can Pfaadt get things back on track here against this Mariners team? I hope so. When we talk about that timeline, maybe 2 weeks away from the Diamondbacks, if they play really bad baseball and things go really sideways on them, that's how quickly we could be talking about this season being over. The Diamondbacks cannot avoid things going sideways on them without Brandon Pfaadt getting things back on track right now. With the variables at the end of their starting rotation of Eduardo Rodriguez and Ryan Nelson right now, you just need consistency here, and you need it from the 3 guys you can count on. You need it from Zach Gallen, you need it from Merrill Kelly, and you really need Brandon Pfaadt to get back on track. And that is, again, one of those situations where baseball, we do react fairly quickly, right? We do take a look at these numbers and react quickly to these numbers. One bad outing can make a pitcher's season look awful. And we saw that with Merrill Kelly early on with his pitching performance against New York. And now we've seen it now with 2 bad outings in a row from Brandon Pfaadt. Doesn't mean that Pfaadt is not still the pitcher that the Diamondbacks have had going out there and be, big game Brandon. It's just a matter of, what is going on with him and what is going on with, a lot of pitchers in this staff. What is to explain for the inconsistency? And I mean, again, it's easier to say that than it is to understand that baseball's hard sometimes, and sometimes guys just aren't as sharp as they were. I think fans are right though to question, with the addition of new coaches, and then those coaches being a part of the components of this team that are weak right now, their weaknesses, with how inexplicably bad both the starting pitching and relievers have been, with how many injuries they've experienced for all of those guys, considering that the coach they brought in specializes in biomechanics and keeping guys healthy. There's just a lot of things there that really don't add up. And again, I can understand blame being placed and people being frustrated with the lack of performance this season, or the lack of consistency this season from the starting pitching, but not a lot of time left for them to figure it out. And Brandon Pfaadt specifically kind of needs to get things back on track here against a Mariners team that's been pretty good at times offensively. So I don't know, man. It's doom and gloom a little bit, right? But it's also a thing of looking back and wondering about that alternate timeline where the Diamondbacks don't lose Brent Strom this offseason, and how that could have potentially continued to impact, this team in a possible positive direction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you can blame Brent Strom for last year at this point. I also don't really know if he would fix anything this year, because it kind of just seems like the Diamondbacks are destined to have bad pitching until time ends. So I don't know if that seems dramatic to you, Derek, but we have
a little bit.
The Diamondbacks have top of the line starting pitchers from time to time, but they never have a complete rotation of good solid pitchers. You know what I mean? It's been a pretty long time.
That's why we were out there celebrating about how good this
2 years in a row.
This thing could be. We were excited that we got it. We finally had not only
2 off seasons in a row we did that, Derek.
But I mean, this one was different, right? I think this one was wow, they didn't even need to add Corbin Burns. We just needed Jordan Montgomery to be good again, right? Yeah. I mean, Jordan Montgomery, again, was a guy. I know now he's become a name that a lot of Diamondbacks fans don't even want to hear, right?
Yeah.
He who shall not be named. But it felt like at the time, wow, they added Corbin Burns. Imagine if Jordan Montgomery gets back on track. Can you imagine if Zach Gallen is what we know he can be? And Merrill, again, that was my frosty take last week. We have 7 starting pitchers, and we don't even know which direction to go. Where do we go? We have so much depth. Ha 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 ha.
Aren't our pitchers also good?
Oh, they were so good. No, they weren't. Or they turned out not to be. And they also didn't stay healthy. And we've lost the 2 guys we acquired during the offseason now that were considered to be the best starting pitchers available on the free agent market to Tommy John surgery. Now there's a lot of questions, including in our mailbag, about, what's going on? What is happening here? Well, I don't have answers for that. I don't really think the Diamondbacks have answers for that, but we'll do our best here on the other side of this break. Don't you go anywhere. You are watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Even when things are bad, Bet365 still helps make watching Diamondbacks games a little better, right? Again, just because the Diamondbacks lose doesn't mean you have to. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. So get down on that live in-game betting, especially if you see a postponement in a Diamondbacks game due to rain. You can guarantee that offense is just going to freeze up. But anyway, great time for you to get down on Bet365 app. You can get on the early payout offer for the NBA playoffs with a Bet365 early payout offer. You're a winner if your team goes up by 20 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections, which will be marked as winners. Not sure if you can guarantee the OKC or Pacers are going to go up by 20 in either of these games, or they might do it. They might absolutely do it at some point during the game and still lose. So if they do, then you're still a winner regardless. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. All you got to do is use that code of PHNX365. Sign up, use that code, deposit $10, and place a bet of $5 or more to receive $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, players, props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Well, another company that helps me throw shade at the umpires is our friends at All Pro Shade Concepts, but they'll help you throw shade in a positive way. They'll help you extend your outdoor living space, especially during this hot summer, with a custom fit awning. They have hundreds of designs and colors to choose from that will match any home, and they can work with your HOA to ensure that they are HOA compliant. We know how those guys can be, but motorized and awnings with a retractable remote control, all with LED lighting. Come on, get out of here. Not only does that make it better in the daytime, it also makes it better at night. Roll down patio shades can also block the sun and keep your patio up to 20 degrees cooler. And let me tell you, with the 2 weeks of 100+ degree days straight, now is a great time to give All Pro Shades Concepts a call. They've been in business for 20 years here in the Valley, and now they are one of the largest installers of patio roll-down shades and motorized awnings here in Phoenix. So they are licensed, bonded, insured. Give them a call at 623-204-1476 or visit allproshadeconcepts.com now to schedule your free estimate. Well, Damon, I'm sad, and this series made me sad, and I think that this is an indication of how close the Diamondbacks are right now to me actually calling a time of death on their season, on their 2025 season. I think that every up and down is kind of critical right now for this team. It's amazing to come off the series against the Braves, here play the series against the Reds, essentially go 3-3 on the road trip, which doesn't sound that bad overall. Feels like 500 baseball is what the Diamondbacks have been playing all season, so it doesn't feel like necessarily that's a failed road trip, but it does feel like a failure after watching them win that amazing 3-game stretch against the Braves. But I'm going to shake it off because this is a new week. They have the series against the Mariners, and of course, every year is still our year. This year might not be our year, but every year is our year. On this podcast.
Don't do that off the jump.
I'm not going to do that.
Keep the vibes.
I'm just saying every year on this podcast at least is our year. Every month on this podcast is Black History Month. Every month on this podcast is Women's History Month. And of course, every month on this podcast is absolutely Black Women's History Month. Every week is Shark Week. Every day is Earth Day. But on Monday, we go to the mailbag. Damon?
Always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox. And then once in a while, there's a letter that makes me go, wow, my mailbox.
All right, what do we got in the mailbag today, Damon? I know you haven't been around here. I make Kevin read these now, so
yeah, no, I think that change was implemented like the week that I joined. I got off the Diamondbacks show.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Kevin.
We were like, yeah, well, we got someone that can read now, basically. So, but yeah, go ahead and give it a shot anyway.
Travis Moore, leadoff, quintessential leadoff hitter, says hypothetically, if the season goes south quickly and the Dbacks are obvious sellers at the deadline, what do we watch for the rest of the season? More Lawler, other prospects, assuming it becomes a valuation period. Also, what would the scope for 2026 look like without Burns too?
I think okay, so this is a couple of questions here. His first part there about the season going south. Yeah, I'm assuming that there are certain pieces that might be looked at to be traded. I doubt Zach Gallen or Josh Naylor will be traded due to being able to offer qualifying offers that the Diamondbacks are fairly certain will get rejected. Maybe Zach Gallen accepts that qualifying offer and comes back just for one season to try to have a better season with this team before getting that big contract. Maybe he attempts to rebound here before he can get that. I don't think that the Diamondbacks will move either one of those guys, even though it feels like, that they are part of that group. I think one of the greatest pitchers in Diamondbacks history, Merrill Kelly, could be potentially moved. And I think that his value is extremely high this year. I think he could really be a legitimate game changer for a starting pitching rotation this season, should the Diamondbacks do that. And again, he's one of those guys that right now his season remaining with this team kind of hangs on the Diamondbacks and what they can do. I think Gino, as you guys brought up with the beard tracker, is another potential candidate for the Diamondbacks to trade, because they could, in a somewhat failed season, could let Jordan Lawler come back up, establish him as the third baseman of the future and allow him to start getting those at bats at a major league level now, where that failure at a major league level doesn't impact the Diamondbacks, winning or losing teams or the team really caring about that. But I'll say that, yeah, there's going to be some components traded for sure. And I'll say, yeah, again, if you want to wonder what to watch, it would be the development of the young guys. It would be to see how the Diamondbacks address the offseason with Corbin Burnes being lost for the majority of 2026, potentially. I mean, 12 months is a pretty safe estimate as far as losing a pitcher to Tommy John surgery, but it's not necessarily the full time that it could take. It could take up to 18 months for Corbin Burnes to return. If that's the case, then he would miss the entirety of the 2026 season. I think the Diamondbacks will probably approach next year in that fashion. So should they lose Zach Gallen, should they lose Merrill Kelly, I think that they'll address the starting rotation and the open spots that they have during this free agent offseason. I don't know if the Diamondbacks are going to continue to spend money the way they have because of the fact that it hasn't really worked out for them. So I don't know if the approach changes after the failures. And again, I don't want to call Corbin Burnes a failure, but it's hard to not say that this is a disappointment, and obviously not a good thing that the Diamondbacks have lost him for the rest of the year and a good solid portion of last year. So it's not a failure performance-wise, but it's a failure health-wise that the Diamondbacks now lose Corbin Burnes, another guy that they once again paid a lot of money for in the offseason that isn't going to work out for the team this year. So I don't know, man. This is it. Sean says, in the words of Newman, I'm reneging on the deal. The deal was Gino's home run count, not what team he does it with. If Gino is no longer part of the Diamondbacks, his home runs are inconsequential to me.
I will say, as much as I want to be anti-Derek and go against him, yeah. I even concur with that. If Gino's on a different team doing it, how depressed do you want this man to be?
Yeah.
He does 5 shows a week. He's going to show up with just the saddest puppy dog look on his face with a teal
every
beard.
Single day. Yeah.
Every day. For a player that, while the Diamondbacks finished 10 games under 500, that'd be egregious.
I'm going to only match half of the clothes in my wardrobe. That's going to be crazy when I'm wearing the other stuff. I'm going to look like a crazy person. Grudy in the chat says could get a haul for Merrill, Gallen, Lourdes, and Gino. Yeah. Especially if you piece those guys out and give them to different teams that all need those guys, specific, qualifications, I guess you could say. Some guys trying to add power. I don't know. But overall, I would say Lourdes is probably the guy that doesn't get moved because he still has another year on his contract. And also Lourdes, isn't really having the best season. He has turned things around considerably. I just don't know if I would put him in that group.
I mentioned to you last week, I think, actually, if the Diamondbacks keep playing poorly, that would be my number one guy I'm trying to move off of. And not because I think Lourdes is a bad player. I just think he's a slightly above average one. And if he could get hot right before the deadline, and you can get off of this, let me see here. He has
just because we know
$13 million player option for next year, and then a club option for 14 the year after that. Yeah, I mean, I would try to get off of him, to be honest with you. Gino, another player. Grichuk, I think, just because he has 1 year, you probably don't bring him back next year. I try to keep Merrill. Is that crazy? I think Merrill wants to stay here.
Merrill is the guy I absolutely keep.
I mean, I think he wants to stay here. I know he has a year left, but he obviously spent a lot of time in the Valley. And, while I don't think Gallen is that top level starting pitcher that maybe he was a couple years ago anymore, I still think Merrill is a great number 3. And I would love to have him back next year.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next question. Actually, hold on one second. Let's throw Travis's question back up there real fast, Damon, if you wouldn't mind. He says, what does the scope for 2026 look like without Burnes too? Yeah, I think as far as the scope looks like, I think that's how the Diamondbacks are going to approach it. I said that earlier, but I don't feel like there's any way to approach it other than that. If Burnes comes back in 2026 and can be a late season addition, then that's welcomed and awesome and could be the thing that could, maybe help the Diamondbacks late next year and maybe even the postseason should they be able to make it that far. But again, I think that they, in order to be competitive in 2026, are going to have to figure a lot of things out with this starting rotation right now. And honestly, I hate to say it, but Ryan Nelson even is starting to look like a guy that might just be a better option to stay in the bullpen rather than being in the starting rotation just because of outings like this. And you just don't know when those are going to happen, right? To be fair, you could also say that about Erod and Zach Gallen as well. They've been just having some they've been having a crazily erratic season, and from one outing to the next, you really don't know what you're going to get. All right, let's go on to the next question. Piece of Yoshi can't stop saying stuff in the chat. He said Lourdes is at -5 defensive runs saved, along with Alec Thomas. So yeah, no, I mean, maybe Damon's onto something. Piece of Yoshi says in his brief stint of batting third, Perdomo is slashing 125, 125, 167. When he's not batting third, he's slashing 283, 381, 449. His most productive spots are first and ninth. I feel like this is mental. Should we move him elsewhere, or is this a case of small sample size? I don't think we should move him anywhere but ninth, to be honest. I think Geraldo Perdomo was fine in the ninth hole. I understand the reasoning behind it. Tori gave us the reasoning behind it. It's simple. It's not like it's difficult. You bat third, you get more at bats. And Geraldo Perdomo has been one of the only consistently productive members of the starting lineup that has hit with runners in scoring position. So the idea there is Ketel and Corbin get on base a lot. You put him third. It makes all the sense in the world. The problem here is that baseball is stupid. And baseball players go through these kind of ridiculous mental things that you're talking about, where for some reason now hitting third is different than hitting first or ninth. You're right. I think he was hitting like over 400 first, and then he was, close to 300 there hitting ninth, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I can't explain it. I don't have a good explanation for it. What I can say is that you do the things that make the player. That's baseball. It's the reason why baseball is there's so many superstitions in baseball. And there are so many guys that don't want you to talk to them about how good they're doing. As ridiculous as that sound, because I say it, right? I'm like, yeah, like as if the dumb words that come out of my mouth on this show negatively impact the team, or as if the tweets I put out there on Twitter impact the team. Well, you know who thinks that? The players themselves. They absolutely would agree with you that I curse this team with the dumb things I say on Twitter. They would say I curse them if I talked to them. I remember Paul Goldschmidt just not wanting to hear. Paul Goldschmidt would stop you from quoting his stats to him because he did not want to know how he was doing, what he was hitting, where he was ranked in Major League Baseball. He didn't want to know any of that stuff because these guys legitimately want to just go out there and hit a ball with a stick and not think that they're special or doing it any different today than they were yesterday or the day before. So I really don't know. I don't know why. But it's funny because Tori brought up the fact that Ketel refuses to hit third. Ketel Marte won't hit any lower in the lineup than second. He wants to hit first or second, and that's it. And it's kind of wild because Ketel Marte is also a man who talks to his bat and tells his bat that his bat needs to hit more home runs and go out to left field. And so far, I mean, it seems to work for him.
I've told you before, I'm fine with Jerry being first, second, or ninth. I think that I'm fine with Corbin being like the 3-hole hitter, if that's something that you want to do. And I feel like Jerry gets on base in front of Corbin and Ketel all the time, whether he's the 9-hole or the 1-hole.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with either one of those. I think probably got to move him out of 3. I don't really care about the sample size. I just think that maybe he's not really a 3-hole type of hitter. But yeah, clearly not working. Switch it up a little bit.
I will say one of the things that's similar, and this is going to sound like such an attack on the lower end of the starting lineup, but like first and ninth, Jerry's probably used to getting on base without having really runners on ahead of him, right? Like, so it is different. There is a different amount of pressure when Ketel and Corbin are getting on, and then you're not being able to deliver to bring them in. And I think that I don't know. I think that things mount up quickly. I think that when you start off slow, then it starts to impact your mental state, and you start to think that you can't get the job done, and whatever. Like it's so ridiculous to say any of this because you don't want to really believe just hitting in a different spot in the lineup could really impact someone like this. Yet it happens. It happens all across Major League Baseball, and it's why so many guys, especially superstars, are very particular about where they hit in the lineup because that's where they succeed, and that's where up here they think they succeed and know they succeed. We got another one from Piece of Yoshi there, Damon. What else do we got?
As an add-on, the most concerning thing to me is he hasn't drawn one walk in 24 plate appearances. I feel like this is a situation similar to Brandon Nimmo, someone who's had similar stat disparity in terms of whether he bats first or second or bats third, fourth, or fifth.
This is just him needing to bring up Brandon Nimmo. I feel like this is just him derailing this conversation with more Mets talk. But no, I will say that
if I was Yoshi and my two teams were the Diamondbacks and Mets, I completely can understand why he would want to talk about the Mets a lot more than the Diamondbacks.
I'd be watching a Mets podcast, quite frankly, and I'm thankful that he's here giving us questions. So I'm not going.
You, sir, are a saint for that.
You are a beautiful person, and we appreciate you. But yeah, no, it is that, and again, the no walks and 24 plate appearances, especially when I haven't checked, but he either still leads Major League Baseball shortstops and walks, or he's definitely up there. And again, him walking is a big part of what he's able to do in an at bat, right? It's why there in the ninth hole, it's exasperating to try to get Jerry out, knowing that Corbin and Ketel are coming up to bat after that. So I think that that's a big part of his success, and the reason why his at bats are kind of the way they go there when he's hitting ninth. I think again, it's
first. That's why I think first works too, because
first works too.
It still has him directly in front of those guys, so that the pitchers kind of have to pitch to him in a way, but it also, we know he takes a ton of pitches. So and he sees a lot of pitches. It is concerning. I wonder if he's ever gone 24 plate appearances without a walk in his entire baseball career in his life.
Well, and I mean, again, it's more maybe about the fact that there's two things there. Either you're trying to get a hit with Ketel or Corbin or both of them on, or they didn't get the job done. Now there's 2 outs and it comes down to you, and you just feel the pressure differently rather than being the guy down there in the ninth hole that nobody's really expecting to get on base. Now you're like, oh, I gotta get a big hit here to kind of save this inning, and again, it's just, it could just literally be that different mentality. And that could be the reason why we're seeing the difference there. But regardless, you keep them where it's working. Keep them where it's working. What else we got in the mailbag there, Damon?
Yeah. Next mailbag question comes from Gabby Dearth, and he says, another pitcher with shoulder inflammation. It's getting kind of weird, right?
I don't like the way he said it's getting kind of weird right there at the end. The only reason why I say that is because that feels very like let's look into this conspiracy theory as to what's going on.
Well, he's implying that the Diamondbacks organization is doing something wrong in terms of getting their pitchers. I just think that
I feel like he's implying they're doing it on purpose. And
I don't know about that.
I'm more interested to see about why they're doing it. No, I'm joking. No,
okay. I see it more as like him saying like clearly something in the development process is causing this. I feel like it's just 2025, and that's kind of how pitchers are. These guys throw so hard these days. It's bound to happen to a lot of them. Like, I don't know if it's a Diamondbacks problem necessarily. We haven't really lost big time starting pitchers, I want to say, for the last few seasons until Corbin Burns, right? Like Erod was out for a long portion of last year. We thought he was going to be back a lot sooner.
Merrill Kelly too.
Yeah, Merrill and Zach was out, but it wasn't necessarily like, I don't think so, at least. Shoulder inflammation. I don't remember, I guess exactly.
No, it was different. It was different things, but it's, because like Erod, it was like a oblique or a side thing. And then Merrill, I don't think.
Then
Merrill
you have Jordan
cramping.
Montgomery, but whatever.
I mean, what I will say is that it is suspicious considering that Brian Kaplan's entire background seems to be based in understanding the body, right? But I don't think that's suspicious. I just think it goes to show that no matter how much you know about sports medicine and know about the body and know about taking, know about rotation, when guys should pitch, how much rest they should have in between starts, you really can't do anything about injuries, right? It's similar to when Torrey was sitting guys and giving guys days rest early in the season, 3-4 days in, a week in, 2 weeks in. And a lot of people were losing their minds over that because they were like, we are only, 8 days into the season. We're only 15 days in the season, and Ketel needs a day off, and this person needs a day off. And then we started seeing guys get injured. And again, for Torrey, it wasn't even about him giving too many guys days off throughout that first month. It was him feeling like he didn't give guys enough time off. And again, I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know if giving baseball players more time off, you'll always have these old-timey guys that like are old as me, And I try not to be as old as them, but they make me feel old when they say stuff like this. But they'll be like, back in my day, pitchers pitched on 2 days rest and they threw 195 pitches, and they, like that. It just doesn't happen anymore, right? It doesn't happen anymore. And the reason why is because a guy that did that would go out the next game and snap his arm and then never pitch ever again in Major League Baseball. And there was only like a handful of them that could go do that and then be incredible elite pitchers for their entire career and have a lengthy career. Things change in sports, and the idea here is that the investment teams make in these players, they want to get as much as they can out of them. So I think that this is sports. You just can't keep injuries from happening. It's devastating when it happens in the playoffs. It's devastating when it happens in the middle of the regular season like this. It doesn't matter when, but losing a guy for the remainder of the season with no hope of his return sucks. And it's never going to be, it's never going to be a thing where you can really explain it or blame it on health or what they were doing, what their regiment was, on any of that. I also understand, though, that people, get impatient and suspicious fast considering what has happened to this Diamondbacks team, specifically what has happened to these two pitchers that were the best available free agents on the market that the Diamondbacks went out and added to their roster.
100%.
That's it. That's all we got. We don't know why injuries happen, but stop blaming it on people.
Not a scientist.
Yeah. I don't know, though. I mean, I don't know if I trust a guy named Esposito. I'm still like 50-50 on trusting anybody named Esposito.
We'll
yeah. The entire clan, I guess you could say. But what we will do is we're going to take one more quick break, and then we got some more Mailbag Monday questions to get to. Don't you guys go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Well, did you know that half of your energy costs in your home come from cooling and heating your home? You may have known that, but you might not know that there are smart thermostats available to you for as low as $0 if you are an APS customer. You just got to check out the APS Marketplace. There are ways for you to get these smart thermostats and maximize your comfort. Just update your home with a new smart thermostat that not only can you schedule your air conditioning, your heating, but you can also control it on your smartphone when you are not home, which is my favorite part about this. If you're on the APS time of use plan, you can use your smartphone or device to automatically adjust the thermostat to take advantage of lower cost off-peak hours. And of course, APS customers may be eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0 when you enroll in the APS Cool Rewards program. If you're not sure how to install a smart thermostat, free install is also available at the APS Marketplace. Find rebates, discounts, and special offers on smart thermostats, energy efficient appliances, and more at marketplace.aps.com. Must be an APS customer and pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions do apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for more information. And not only can you save money with your cooling and your heating by getting a smart thermostat, but you can save all sorts of money by getting control of your finances with Monarch Money. Finances can be confusing and messy, and most importantly, you have all these accounts that you sign up for. You pay a monthly membership fee. You have no idea even still what you're paying for. You also don't know how much you're making or losing in your investments, because all of this information can be on several different accounts, several different apps all over the place. You can get everything straightened out with Monarch Money. Of course, I had talked about wanting to save towards vacations, and that's exactly what I can do with Monarch Money. It can help me reach my financial goals by helping me telling me when I've spent too much money, what things I can save on, accounts I'm currently paying for, and it's all in one place. Start managing your finances to build the life you actually want. Monarch makes managing money simple, even for busy lives. It is the financial tool people actually love, named the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use our code of PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser, and you will get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code PHNX. Well, for those of you watching right now over at gophnx.com, on whatever your favorite device is, join us at gophnx.com. We're heading into overtime right here on PHNX Diamondbacks, and I hate calling it that, Damon, because it's really extra innings. It's extra innings is what it is. This says overtime. Is that like a hockey alarm? What are we doing? We don't even have a hockey team anymore, dude.
I think
What are we
maybe
doing?
people just miss hockey, Derek. You ever thought about that before?
Man, I do. I know I do.
We have nothing in this city.
But see, here's the thing: is I try to eliminate things in my life that remind me of painful moments and things that make me sad. So again, all of my hockey stuff has been folded up. It's here at the office. It's not. It's definitely not where I can see it. That makes
it's
me
in a
upset.
taped up box.
Oh, for sure.
It says hockey written on the outside.
It doesn't say hockey at all. It says "Do not open." Is what it says.
It's caution
it says,
tape.
"Send to Utah" is what it says. Oh man. Carlos says I missed the oath. See, now I made us sad. Now I made us all sad. Damon, can we get things back on track with another Mailbag Monday question, please?
Yeah, let's do it. Next mailbag question comes from our guy Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
Update on Jameson and Diaz.
Oh boy, yeah,
That
these are
being
bad
Gilbert
situations,
Diaz.
or at least situations we don't have a lot of information with. For those of you that might not know, Dre Jameson landed on the 7-day injured list in AAA Reno with right elbow inflammation. We heard that one before, right? But his injury was not considered alarming, and he isn't supposed to miss a significant amount of time. However, that was like back on May 20th, I want to say, and the Reno Aces have still not reinstated Dre Jameson. So even though it's not considered alarming, not considered an injury that he's going to require Tommy John surgery or miss an extended amount of time, it's still not great that the Diamondbacks have yet another pitcher, a guy with major league experience that they could potentially call on this season, that is missing time due to elbow inflammation. Right elbow inflammation. Also, Jameson has not had a good season, if I'm being honest, for the Reno Aces, and just maybe that right elbow inflammation might be a reason why. But he has a 7.11 ERA with the Aces this year. That's in 14 games. He's pitched 12 2/3 innings, 19 strikeouts, and 10 earned runs allowed. So not a great season for Jameson. As I've said in the past, though, you can't judge anything that happens in Reno and have it actually be real. Got to look at expected stats without park factors mostly. Meanwhile, Gilbert Diaz is the Diaz I believe he's talking about there. He was sent to the Arizona Complex League to work on his command. He has not been moved back to the Reno Aces. No updates on his current status as of yet, but I imagine the reason why is because Gilbert Diaz is a fairly important arm to the Diamondbacks this season as far as depth is concerned. They know what he can do at a major league level. He did have success last year in 2024, but he wasn't very good this year. And again, just a guy that the Diamondbacks are going to need as their depth has dwindled this season. I mean, we are moving from a position where I was very excited, and I even a little surprised to hear one Jesse Friedman say on this podcast that he would not have been surprised to see Yumin Lin be called up to the major league roster at some point in 2025. I mean, now that's almost looking like a certainty with how depleted the Diamondbacks starting pitching rotation currently is, and could continue to be if further injuries occur. Gilbert Diaz, again, he still hasn't returned to the Reno Aces roster, so hopefully we'll have an update here soon on that. Meanwhile, on June 8th, yesterday, the Diamondbacks selected the contract of left-handed pitcher Kyle Dbacks, which is a great thing because I know a lot of people have been excited to see him. He could be potentially the Diamondbacks' left-handed savior there in the bullpen, considering Jalen Beeks and Tommy Henry right now are those only guys. Tommy Henry, I believe, was sent down for Eduardo Rodriguez returning to the lineup. Tommy Henry, another guy, hasn't had a great amount of success this year, but is a guy that the Diamondbacks need to keep stretched out for starting pitching depth should they lose another starting pitcher. They don't have a lot of guys. Kyle Ament is another guy that was injured as well, so the Diamondbacks have lost a lot of their best starting pitchers there, or even relief pitchers in AAA Reno, and that depth is getting shorter and shorter. All right, what else we got there, Damon?
I just want to say real quick, speaking of Jesse, definitely feels like Jesse's avoiding me at this point. Now that I mean, I hadn't thought about it prior, but what the hell is happening?
Yeah, Here we are, like a full solid week plus of Damon being back on the podcast. I was so happy
to get the boys back in town.
Yeah,
and meanwhile, Jesse's just avoiding your boy.
We did some creative scheduling, Damon, because what I was concerned about was the power of Damon's positivity. The power of positivity from Damon Dog, mixing with whatever the hell you could call Jesse's appearances on this show. Because not only have they lost Damon when Jesse has appeared on this show for post-game shows, but they've lost in devastating fashion. If you go back and track Jesse's outings, if you will, he's given up a lot of earned runs. He's had a lot of things go bad. So what we're doing this week is we're trying to free the Diamondbacks of the obligation of Jesse's bad mojo, if you will, and he will be appearing on Thursday's show at 12 noon. So there we go. We're going to have the gang back together, Jesse, Damon, and Derek all back together on Thursday. Make sure to join us. That's our other noon show for this week. Then we'll have post-game shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So pull up for those, and we will have a great time. Now let's get to Michael Rokicki's question. Michael says, and this is such, oh my God. This is such a good question, Damon, because there's so many losses to pick from. Michael says, if you could turn one of the ridiculous losses to wins, which would you choose? I know you and I have two different ones. Mine definitely is the loss to the Cubs, where the Diamondbacks came back and then the Cubs came back and beat them. And I think there's lots of comeback wins that then the other team came back and won that you could pick from. And that's probably the biggest sign that this team has not been good this year, that you can literally be like, oh, which of the comeback losses do you want to talk about? Well, I want to talk about that one because the Diamondbacks were playing pretty good baseball at the time. The Cubs, also a pretty good baseball team this year, as you know, much better than the Diamondbacks are performing right now. And yeah, that one, that seemed to just like punch him in the gut and then last for a while, right? It was like not only the loss in that game, but it was the kind of the ripple effect that it had, and the team just kind of had lost it from that point forward, and things really, really got bad. But I know what you're going to say.
Every person in the chat is with me.
Everybody's saying the Dodgers game.
That makes me feel like I've at least, I know that they all have their sensibilities of hating the Dodgers beforehand, but at least just the influence of, just making them hate him even more.
Yeah.
That game we did a post-game show for Derek. I volunteered. I said, hey, Kevin, why don't you head home on a Friday night? Go hang out with your friends. I got this one, Dbacks W. I'm going to set up from the office. It's going to be electric. What a comeback. And then Ohtani mocks Lourdes. And I've never hated an athlete more in my entire life than I hated Shohei Ohtani in that moment, and still do, because I'll never forget that. I'll never forget this guy who I thought he was a humanitarian. I thought he was the sweetest man in baseball, as he is just a bully. He's just a bully. He's a mean guy, and I hate him, and he should be in jail.
You were the first person that I thought of when he did that. And the reason why I say that is because
he was mocking me. Everyone knows.
It's not just that he was
but it was
me.
He
was mocking you. There's no doubt in my mind that he was specifically doing it to mock you. If he could have done a Geraldo Perdomo celebration, he would have, right? But
I'm surprised he didn't fake himself in handcuffs and run around the bases with his hands tied behind his back.
It was the fact that you have been calling Shohei Ohtani a bad guy for a long time.
A criminal.
Podcast. You've made a lot of accusations about him. And yes, I guess his involvement in crimes, his involvement in doing crime. And I didn't necessarily defend him. I just kind of laughed at you. I was like, yes, let's blame. Yeah, let's do the gambling thing. Yes, this is all very funny. It was in this moment when he mocked Lourdes that I knew this entire time you were right. And that he is, in fact, not just a good baseball player, but a bad guy.
But have you seen his beagle, Derek?
Bad guy status confirmed. I don't care how many dogs he owns. He could own all the dogs and they could all be the cutest dog. He could save every single stray dog in America. And I could find out that it's the Shohei Ohtani dog ranch that we all think our dogs are going to go live at when our parents say that they're going to take them to the vet and they're going to go live on a ranch, right? No, that's a real ranch. Ohtani owns it, and he just adopts every dog in America to ensure that every single one of them has a good, solid home for the rest of their lives. Vet care, feeding,
that's the type of stuff that leads Sports Center. I'm not even joking.
Maybe a legitimate rainbow bridge. Maybe he actually puts a rainbow bridge on there for the dogs to play on, right?
I heard he also donated. I heard he cured child hunger in the entire continent of Asia.
He can do all of this stuff, Damon. After seeing him do what he did to Lourdes, I would never change my position on him being a bad guy. I'd be like, oh, that's good charity work. He's still an awful human being. And they'd be like, why? And I'd be like, because he mocked Lourdes Gurriel one time with a walk-off home run. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. Well, it wasn't a walk-off home run, but it was.
Sean's right, though. He does say hi to the umpires. So you give and you take, you know?
We got a Shohei Ohtani bat coming up in 3 batters, I think, and we got all duck for it now.
We definitely need like a thing that transitions on screen here for when Shohei's up next.
Zabe says known psychopath. Shohei Ohtani. Exactly. All right. Well, do we got one more before we get out of here?
We do have one last question. It is from Fleaball. Fleaball says, we have gone from watching the Coyotes leave to watching the Suns to watching the Dbacks. What should my daily alcoholic beverage of choice be?
Okay. Well, I'm not allowed to give out free ads on the show, as you guys know.
Well, on Mondays, on Fridays, free ad Friday.
On Fridays, it's free ad Friday. That's why we call it that, right?
Maybe we revisit it on Friday.
Maybe we do, but I'm going to say this. I was given as a birthday present a Ninja slushy machine. And what I will say is if you want suggestions for what to drink during these dark times of this hot summer of our sports teams being terrible, there's nothing I can recommend more than a Ninja slushy machine. I don't even know how the science of it works, Damon, yet. I still am trying to figure it out. There's a sugar to water combination you kind of have to perfect. But what I do know is I'm making boozy whatever all summer long. Boozy milkshakes, boozy frozen Cokes, boozy margaritas, because you can make a margarita even boozier than it normally is. But they're all frozen to perfection. And every single time I have one, it makes me happy. It makes me smile. Even after a Diamondbacks loss, even after a devastating injury to a pitcher, even after a roster move that I know isn't going to work out, I still have these delicious frosty drinks that I've been making all summer long. And quite frankly, it's why my mood has been better. I mean, I can't even throw shade like I used to, because it's just, I don't have the hot hatred in my heart thanks to these frozen drinks. Also, thanks to Frosties as well from Wendy's, but that's not a free ad. That's on point. But I will say that definitely go out and get yourself something like that to help you sustain these terrible times. You can make Frosties in a slushy machine. Just saying. I'm not recommending it. I'm still recommending you go to Wendy's and buy them. But there's a recipe out there.
Invest in the Cardinals. That's what I say. We're on to the next one. It's football season, baby. And U of A baseball. As we talked about. Sean wanted to talk about it earlier in the chat, but I just want to let the people know. I did approach Derek before today's show, and I said, if you just want to make this an Arizona baseball going to the College World Series podcast, let's do it. We could talk about some positive baseball in this state.
I'll die before I do that. I will die before I do that. I just want you to know.
Chip Hale, baby.
You keep it over on the AZ Wildcats podcast over there, okay?
Why? Chip Hale.
Yeah, well.
Diamondbacks connection?
Yeah, I know.
Great manager.
I was there during those days.
Great MLB manager.
Let's calm down on that. All right, let's calm down on that.
One of the most beloved managers in Diamondbacks history, I'd argue.
Okay, well,
but also at the same time, what does that even mean at this point? Because Torrey's been here the longest of any D-backs manager, seen tons of success, and half this fan base hates his guts. So,
well, yeah, because half of this, it's
being beloved as a manager for the Diamondbacks is kind of impossible.
You have to win a championship. Bob Brenly, I think, is beloved.
Sure.
Right? Bob Brenly's beloved.
But I think people wanted him fired when he did get canned.
Especially with the early success this team had, I can imagine how impatient people were. We never had to wait. We waited through one bad season before this team started winning games, right? Like, we waited one single season. No wonder we're cursed. We had success too early on in this franchise history, and we'll always have a curse on our starting pitching because of it. But hey, hopefully Merrill Kelly proves that wrong tonight. He's going up against the Seattle Mariners at Chase Field. That starts at 6:40. Make sure you guys get out there, enjoy yourself some baseball, watch this team turn things around. We got a super chat from our guy Grudy, a.k.a. Nicholas Gruder, says, this is becoming an abusive relationship. We were all the way back, and then we crapped all over my dreams. Damon can only carry us so far.
Yeah, I'll be responding to this, Derek. So last week on this Monday, I came back, I believe, or it might have been our first post-game show, and I said, it's simple. I'm a winner. Well, I'd like to make an amendment to that. I'm a loser. I'm the biggest loser. Getting swept by the Reds. That's
Maybe
it.
we didn't do shows. Maybe it's our fault. We didn't do shows.
I'm speechless, really.
Someone was like, you got to do shows every single day now. You have to do shows every game for the rest of the season in order for this team, and Damon has to be on every show. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if today counts or not. Did we do a show, or should this have been a post-game show? We'll find out when the Diamondbacks win or lose, inevitably, and we'll figure out who to blame it on, whether it's on Damon, whether it's on Jesse Jr., or whether it's just on this team having some really bad luck this season. But we appreciate you guys loving this team, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your Mailbag Monday questions and being here in the live chat. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. Damon is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are all Damon's dogs. Bark, bark. Our show is at PHNX_Dbacks. But as always, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you again for your time. As I've said before, it's your most valuable commodity. We appreciate you spending it with us. We will see you back here tomorrow with another post-game show. Until then, have a wonderful evening. Watch some Diamondbacks baseball. Hopefully, they can turn things around again tonight, starting with the Mariners. Behave yourselves. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when weather isn't actively against us.
We all silly like the mayor.